What's up, everyone? It's Horror Master, and I'm back with another video. And this time, I'm finally gonna do an album versus album video. Yes, after the longest time I want to do one of these videos, it has finally arrived. So a couple of weeks ago, I asked all of y'all on both my Instagrams, on my main and on my CD Instagram, which if you haven't followed me on those accounts, do so and follow me, subscribe, and all that. I asked you to give me some of the hardest, craziest, weakest, craziest album versus albums you can think of, and I have them all here on my phone, which I'm gonna read them slowly but surely. And yeah, this kind of broke me after seeing the Awesome Metal guy doing an album versus album. I was like, there's no way this is gonna be. It could be that hard, and oh boy, it is really hard. So I'm gonna try to edit this as much as I can, with as much response as I can, and be as brutally honest and try to explain my choices. But this is gonna be hell of a fun and bit of a torturing. So without further ado, let's get started with the first one. So the first one comes up with my good buddy Thrashmania 99, aka Lee, with my fellow Shadow Code and Horseman podcast co-host. He asked me, Paradise Lost Gothic versus My Dying Bride's Turn Loose the Swans. You son of a bitch. And he knows that Death Doom is my favorite subgenre of metal, so to put both these albums next to each other is diabolical. And being that Gothic and Turn Loose the Swans are both of the bands respectively sophomore efforts, by this time this was technically the quote-unquote last gothic, not really gothic, but Death Doom album in the discography after they kind of moved more gothic doom. But I mean, I love gothic and I love Turn Loose the Swans. But if I had to pick, I'm gonna go with gothic. If this was My Dying Bride's, like God to the Sun, which is my favorite My Dying Bride album, it could have had a better chance. But for this occasion, I'm gonna go with gothic. It's more doomy, more heavy. The intro song Gothic has that big chorus with the female vocals, and yeah, this is, just by that answer alone, this is gonna be one hell of a video. So, and it's just the beginning. Next up comes from Thrash Metal Head 88 on Instagram. He said, Slayer's Hell Awaits versus Taylor Swift's 1989. I'll give him credit for giving something so odd. I mean, when I said give me odd ones, this is probably one of the oddest ones. But I mean, it's gotta be Hell Awaits. I mean, it's fucking Slayer. No disrespect to Taylor Swift. I'm pretty sure she's a great artist on her own. I'm not a Taylor Swift fan. I'm not a Swiftie, as they like to call themselves. But easily Hell Awaits all day, any day. It's fucking Slayer, people. Come on. All right, next up we have Ryan, again, another buddy who I've met thanks to Thrashmania 99. We be kind of chatting once in a while on Instagram. He said, Devin Townsend Epeth versus Tool's Fear Inoculum. Now, this is going to be a bit of a hard one because as much as I love Devin Townsend, I've always been a fan of his Strapping Young Lag Day, especially the album Alien, which I think is my favorite Strapping Young Lag album. Now with Epeth, I think Epeth is a great album, don't get me wrong, because anything with Devin Townsend post Strapping Young Lad is, it's amazing to phenomenal. And Devin Townsend is one of those bands, one of those individuals who can play any genre of metal, and again, we don't even know what genre he's in. Some people call him dream metal because he's always all over the place. And with Tool's Fear Inoculum, that album took almost 15 years from 10,000 Days, which came out in 2006, 2007, to when Fear Inoculum came out a couple of years ago, which that was a well-awaited album that a lot of people, especially myself, were hyped about, and it was a great album. So, in that being said, I'm gonna go with Fear Inoculum because I need to listen to more of the post Devin Townsend stuff and Strapping Young Lad. Even though I've had a couple of albums in my playlist, I need to get more Devin Townsend solo. But with True Fear Inoculum, that album was one hell of a trip. I mean, the song Tempest is great. I mean, the entire album, maybe the packaging of the CD when it was released, which I still need to get that one in the collection sooner or later. But True Fear Inoculum, my pick, great album. All right, next up we have Boss, my fellow co-host at the Shadow Co podcast. He sent me a shitload of album versus album, which I really thank him for that. And I'm gonna try my best to go through as much as I can with all of your picks, even though, these are some of the hardest ones I think so far. So first of all, he said Sepultura Arise versus Metallica's Master of Puppets. Master of Puppets all day, any day. I love Arise. I love Beneath the Remains, especially Arise. But Master of Puppets, hands down, all day, any day, the greatest thrash metal album of all time. Period. Move along. Next up, he said Solemn Persecution Mania versus Slayer's Reign in Blood. Ah. If this was Ancient Orange by Sodom, Sodom would have had a better chance, but again, I'm gonna have to go to Reign in Blood. It's Reign in Blood. If it's not Master of Puppets, Reign in Blood has the pick to be if not the greatest thrash metal album of all time. Period. Next up, he had Dio's Holy Diver versus Saxon's Strong Arm of the Law. Boss, you son of a bitch. And I just saw Saxon a couple of weeks ago, so I've been listening a lot of Saxon the past couple of weeks. And but then again, this is Dio Holy Diver in '83, and Armstrong and the Law was like around '81. Oh god. As much as I been loving more Saxon, I'm gonna have to go with Holy Diver. I mean, the title track, Rainbow in the Dark, Don't Talk to Strangers, the music video for Rainbow in the Dark, not for Rainbow in the Dark, but for Holy Diver. How much metal can you get that? Boss, like I said, I love you, man, but right now you're giving me some of the hardest choices so far. And as I say that, we have another one. He said, Ozzy Osbourne's Blizzard of Oz versus Black Sabbath's Master of Reality. Oh, I hate this so much. I really hate this so much because, how can I choose between these two? Because without Black Sabbath, Ozzy would have gone solo. But then again, in terms of Ozzy albums, Blizzard of Oz is the one that everyone likes next to maybe Diary of a Madman and Bark of the Moon. But fucking hell, man, this is a pain in the ass. I'm gonna have to go with Master Reality because the beginning of Doom Metal, Sweet Leaf, Into the Void, Children of the Grave, my god, those fucking songs fucking rock. And don't get me wrong, Blizzard of Oz has great songs from, I don't know, Mr. Crowley, Crazy Train, Goodbye to Romance, of course, Randy Rhoads on the guitar, but we have Randy Rhoads on guitar versus Tony Iommi on guitar. Iommi most of the time, 99%, 75% of the time, Iommi always wins. So for that, I'm gonna go with Black Sabbath Master of Reality. But let's keep moving forward. Now he has Merciful Fate's Melissa versus Bathory's Under the Sun of the Black Mark. I'm gonna have to go with Under the Sun of the Black Mark on this one because even though Merciful Fate has been sort of being incorporated in the first of black metal, as time has gone on, I've gotten more notable, more experience with black metal. Merciful Fate, yeah, they were sort of black metal with the aesthetic and the corpse paint, especially with King Diamond's vocals. But when you compare it to bands like Venom and Celtic Frost and Bathory and even a band like Sarcophago, compare those to Merciful Fate, it's like night and day. Like, they were more raw, they were more low-key, guttural vocals. Like King Diamond was always had more operatic vocals. And we understand the Black Mark, which is my favorite Bathory album of all time. You have songs like Call a Woman of Dark Desires. You have Woman of Dark, English motherfucker. Into the Eternal Fire, which is my favorite Bathory song of all time. You have the song Equimantle, which later Dark Funeral covered really well. And yeah, I mean, Under the Sun of the Black Mark all day, any. Continuing on with Boss's picks, he has Ice Earth's Burnt Offerings versus Blind Guardian's Nightfall on Middle Earth. Man, this is a bit of a hard one because I need to get more to Blind Guardian, but Nightfall on Middle Earth is always one of my favorite Blind Guardian albums. But I'm gonna have to go with Burnt Offerings. Dante's Inferno, that song alone makes the case for that album. It's fucking Ice Earth. Dante's Inferno. My god, it's a 16-minute masterpiece. Ah, so fucking good. Next up, he has Judas Priest's Painkiller versus Iron Maiden's Peace of Mind. Maiden would have had a better chance if this was the number of the beast. But being that it's not, I'm gonna have to go with Painkiller. Because it's fucking Painkiller. The title track alone. Priest going more metal than they were already metal in the 90s. Touch of Evil. Night Prowler. My god, those songs are fucking amazing. And this was the last album that Halford was a part of Priest until he came back in 2000. So yeah, it kind of makes the case already. But again, the hits keep on coming. Next one he has Death's Human versus Fear Factor's Demanufacture. Now these are two separate schools of thought, because on one hand, Death's Human is more of a prog death metal album, and Fear Factor's Demanufacture is a completely industrial metal album. Now, being that Demanufacture is my favorite Fear Factory album, I'm gonna have to go with Death's Human. Again, it's Death. Every single album Death has done, even the one that's at the very bottom, it's still fucking good. Even like I said, even Spiritual Healing, which is my least favorite Death album, is still fucking phenomenal. And Human's like probably in the top 3. Hell, I don't remember where I ranked it when I did my Death rank them all a couple of years ago. But yeah, it's Human, Cosmic Sea. Come on, it's fucking Human. Jesus Christ, people. Next up, continue with Death. Now, this is going to be a bit of a hard one. You have Death's Leprosy versus Morbid Angel's Altars of Madness. Shit. Now, this is going to be a hard one. Now, Death's Leprosy, again, for a lot of people, Leprosy is probably the best Death album because of that album. A lot of the subgenres of death metal branched out from prog doom to brutal death to death doom to melodic death metal, you name it. But Altars of Madness being one of the albums, I mean, how hard is it for your debut album to be the best album in your entire discography? Not that many bands out there release their best material on their debut album. Surely not my number 6 on my list ever. I mean, who would have Altars of Madness in number 6? Who? But man, shit. I don't even know this one. This might be the hardest choice so far. Man, shit. Fucking hell, man. I'm gonna have to go with Leprosy. And that hurts so much because I love both albums. I mean, hell, even I'm fucking wearing my Leprosy shirt, so you know, they didn't plan that, people. But let's go. Keep moving forward. Next up, he has Motorhead's Bastards versus Sepultura's Chaos AD. I'm gonna go with Chaos AD again, boss. This was probably Ace of Spades. This was Overkill. This was 1916. This was, I mean, any other Motorhead album besides Bastards, Motorhead would have won, but I'm gonna go with Chaos AD. Refuse Resist. That alone. Keep moving forward. And the last one for Boss's choices, which my god, I can't, oh my god, these were hard. For the last one, he has Wasp's self-titled debut versus Motley Crue's Shout of the Devil. Now, both these bands have been gaining a lot of bad rep because they're quote-unquote glam metal bands, but that's fucking bullshit. Both Wasp and Motley Crue were some of the heaviest bands of the 80s, especially Wasp. I mean, if you listen to that debut album from Wasp, come on, it has some great songs. Shout of the Devil, again, if it's with the original album cover, the controversy they had releasing that album, and both albums have great songs. But if I had to probably choose between the two, I'm gonna have to go with Wasp's self-titled debut because I think Wasp's self-titled debut is more heavier, more raw, and of course it has more catchy ass songs. Don't get me wrong, Shadow of the Devil has great songs as well, If this was like Theater Pain or maybe Dr. Feelgood, might have a better chance. But again, Wasp's Hotel debut, and also the fact that Wasp is coming to San Antonio in late November, I might have the opportunity to see them live. I'm not sure yet, depending on timing, but yeah, Wasp's self-titled debut. Next up, we have Rossi Darlington's picks. Again, one of my good buddies that I've made on Instagram. He has a YouTube channel of his own. If you want to subscribe to him, I would really appreciate it. But he has a really so many picks that, again, you son of a bitch. These are some of the hardest ones I think so far, because right off the bat, we have the Battle of the Pantera albums, Cowboys from Hell versus Vulgar Display of Power. Shit, man. And this is really unfair. Me being a Texan, of course, me being a fan of Pantera, this is kind of like picking between Right the Lightning, Master of Puppets in a way. But if I had to choose one, I'm gonna have to go with Cowboys from Hell. Again, Vulgar Display of Power has many great songs. I mean, Walk, that song alone. But Cowboys from Hell was the album that got me into Pantera, and for me, that's the pinnacle of Pantera, honestly. Next up, he has Mayhem's De Mysterious Dom Satanas versus Dark Throne's Transylvanian Hunger. Both albums released in 1994, actually. And I'm gonna have to go with De Mysterious Dom Satanas. Maybe the fact because I saw Mayhem laugh last year while they sang Freezing Moon. But don't get me wrong, Dark Transylvanian Hunger is still good, which some people say was the beginning of, I guess, the depressive soul black metal branching of black metal. But if I had to pick an album, De Mysterious all day, any day. Next up, we have the Battle of the Iron Maiden albums, The Number of the Beast versus Power Slave. If Archer from the Orphan Podcast was here, he would have gone Power Slave all day, any day, being that that's his favorite Iron Maiden album, for good reason. But I'm gonna have to go with The Number of the Beast. That was the album that got me into Iron Maiden. The title track, Children of the Dam, The Prisoner, Hallowed Be Thy Name, Run to the Hills. Again, probably it is my favorite Iron Maiden album of all time. Hell, I have him fucking on vinyl over there sitting on my wall. But yeah, it's The Number of the Beast, people. Come on, classic metal at its finest. And speaking of albums I just mentioned right now we have the Battle of the Metallicas, Ride the Lightning versus Master of Puppets. Fucking hell, man. You're pretty much saying the brother versus the sister of Metallica, the both biggest albums in their discography. And I might sound like a broken record, but I'm gonna have to go with Master of Puppets again for the same reason that Master of Puppets is the greatest thrash metal album of all time, and it was the album that got me into Metallica more. Even though it kind of started with the Lord and Reload stuff, Master of Puppets still holds the test of time. And don't get me wrong, Ride the Lightning is still a phenomenal album, but 9 times out of 10, Master of Puppets always takes the crown. Next up, the Battle of the Dio albums, Holy Diver versus The Last in Line. Oh man, Phil, buddy, you're kicking my fucking ass on these choices here, but I love it. I'm gonna have to go with Holy Diver again. Again, don't get me wrong, Last in Line is still a phenomenal album, but Holy Diver is the more classic one of the Dio albums. If this was Sacred Heart versus Last in Line probably would have had a niche, but it steals Holy Diver. A lot of albums don't really win over Holy Diver. Next up, Ozzy Osbourne's Diary of a Madman versus The Bark of the Moon, the Battle of the Ozzy albums. Now for this one, I'm gonna have to go with Diary of a Madman because this was the last album that Randy Rhoads was a part of a guitar. Because after that, his untimely passing, I think he was replaced by Jakey Lee replaced him during the Bark of the Moon session. And but Diary of a Madman is still a phenomenal album. Again, great songs. He kind of showing the more classical side of Randy Rhoads in his guitar, and just what a phenomenal guitarist he was. And it's such a shame that he died so young. I think he was like 26, 27 when he passed. If he would have still been alive, my God, the things he would have done on the guitar are just phenomenal. Just phenomenal. And speaking of Ozzy albums, now we have Ozzy Osbourne's Blizzard of Oz versus Black Sabbath's Heaven and Hell. Oh, you son of a bitch, Phil. Ah, this is God. This is hard, man. Because you have the album that Ozzy started off after when he was kicked out of Sabbath versus the album Black Sabbath did when they got Dio, and you're pretty much saying again Tony Iommi versus Randy Rhoads, Ozzy versus Dio. In one hand, Ozzy Osbourne's Blizzard of Oz again, Crazy Train, I don't know, Suicide Solution, and in the other hand, Heaven and Hell, Neon Nights, Children of the Sea, Lady Evil. Oh man, this is probably the hardest one so far. And as much as I love Blizzard of Oz, I'm gonna have to go with Heaven and Hell because it's fucking Heaven and Hell. Kind of one of those albums that's kind of put into when it comes to the new wave of British heavy metal, even though they're not really no album, but still, Heaven and Hell, amazing album, and it's probably in my top 3 Black Sabbath favorite albums of all time. With Phil's choices, now we get to the most diabolical one of them all, the most diabolical choice ever on this entire video. Metallica's Saint Anger versus Morbid Angels, Illuminium Insanus, or The Illusionary Anus. Oh shit, and I hate both these albums so much. But I'm gonna have to go with Saint Anger. At least Saint Anger is tolerable, even though the production of that album still fucking sucks. Again, who the fuck drummed for that album? Oscar the fucking Grouch. But man, Phil, you son of a bitch. This was the most diabolical one of them all. But let's continue on. Now we have the battle of another Iron Maidens. We have the X Factor versus Virtual 11. Pretty much both the Blaze Bayley albums, and I just want to say this before making my choice. A lot of people shit on Blaze Bayley. Yeah, even though Blaze Bayley wasn't the greatest choice for vocalist for Iron Maiden during that time, there's still some hidden gems in those 2 albums. But if I had to choose between the both of them, I'm gonna have to go with the X Factor. I think the X Factor has more well-written songs, and I think during this time, Steve Harris was going through a divorce, so all of that, the feelings that he had wrote into the album, and came up with some great songs. The Sign of the Cross. Again, Maiden sung that song when I saw them in 2019, the Legacy of the Beast tour, which was crazy that they played some Blaze Bayley era songs. But again, Virtual 11 is still great, but the X Factor takes the cake. Now, another battle of the Iron Maidens. We have the Iron Maiden Subtitle debut versus Killers. Again, both of the Paul Di'Anno era albums, and this is kind of hard because you have to compare both of them. You know, on one hand, Iron Maiden, you have Iron Maiden, Phantom of the Opera, Charlotte the Harlot, and the other hand, you have Wrathchild, you have Killers, you have Woman in Uniform. You have both great albums, but if you have to choose one, I'll probably have to go with the Subtitle debut because it's the Subtitle debut. You know, it's the one that started it all. And gotta say this, and I'll say it again. Steve Harris, I love you, but that album cover kind of punk if you have to ask me. Just throwing that out there. Next up, another battle of the Creator albums. We have Hordes of Chaos versus Gods of Violence. I'm to go with Gods of Violence on this one. Gods of Violence was the album that got me more into Creator, as this was like maybe Phantom Antichrist, this was like Coma of Souls, Pleasure to Kill, even the new one, Hate to Over Alas. It would have probably, I mean, it still would have gone over Hordes of Chaos, even though Hordes of Chaos is still a great album. Gods of Violence had some of the great songs from that time. I mean, Satan is Real, the title track, Totalitarian Terror, Fallen Brother, those songs are fucking amazing. And also the fact that I'm gonna see Creator live in October with Possessed and Testament, so been listening to all of Creator so far, but yeah, that was a pretty good one. Next up, now we have another battle of the Dragon Force albums. Sonic Firestorm versus Inhuman Rampage. It's pretty obvious what I'm gonna go, but I'm gonna go with Inhuman Rampage. Through the Fire and Flames. What more can I say about that song alone? It has been, I mean, for fuck's sake, it was on Guitar Hero. I think it was a Guitar Hero 2 or 3, I don't remember, but move along. Now we have another battle of the Merciful Fate. We have Melissa versus Don't Break the Oath. This is kind of a hard one because I love both these two albums, especially they're two of my top two favorite Merciful Fate albums. Shit. I'll probably have to go with this with Melissa. Don't get me wrong, Don't Break the Rules has some great songs, Come to the Sabbath, Princess of the Princess, but Melissa has more the raw, satanic, evil kind of sound to it. And of course, Melissa, I mean, that intro, that guitar intro, and the lyrics, I'm kneeling in front of the altar, Satan's cross upon the wall. It gets me every time, and such a great album. Next, now we have the battle of the first quote-unquote two death metal albums. We have Dead Scream Bloody Gore versus Possess Seven Churches. Shit, man. This has been a long debate, and this is one of the choices that I can go either or depending on the day. I could always go with Scream Bloody Gore, I could always go with Possess Seven Churches. But as of right now, what I'm feeling in my heart, in my soul, I'm gonna have to go with Scream Bloody Gore. Don't get me wrong, Possess Seven Churches is influential to the genre, and I'm gonna see Possess in October. And I hope I get to meet Jeff in the when I go there. But as of this moment, Scream Bloody Gore takes the cake. Again, this is one of the choices that, depending on the day, I could always go back and forth. But as of this moment, Scream Bloody Gore takes the cake. Evil Dead. But then again, you compare both albums, you have from Scream Bloody Gore, Evil Dead, Seven Churches, you have The Exorcist. So it's kind of a bit of unfair for me being a huge horror fan that you have these two choices against each other. But again, Scream Bloody Gore takes the cake on this round. Next up, now we have the Battle of the Cannibal Corpse albums. Tomb of the Mutilated versus The Bleeding. Again, this is one of the choices I could always go back and forth. And I saw Cannibal Corpse last year. Hell, I met Alex and he was nice enough to sign my Vile CD. But shit, man. I mean, these two albums are pretty much the greatest hits of Cannibal. I mean, of course, the Chris Barnes era, from Tomb of the Mutilated, Hammer Smash Face, Icon Blood. But The Bleeding, you have Strip Ripped and fucking Strangled. You have Fuck with a Knife. My god, the fucking rips on that album just became more heavy and more brutal in The Bleeding. But again, Tomb of the Mutilated has, I mean, both of these albums have great album artworks. But if I have to choose one, fuck. Again, this is one of the choices I could always go back and forth. I'm gonna have to go with The Bleeding for this one. Again, at this time, they were becoming more technical, more tight in their sound, and again, it's the greatest hits album in some sort of way, if I have to say so myself. Phil's choices. Now we have the Battle of the Venom albums. We have Welcome to Hell versus Black Metal. Shit, man. I mean, these are the two essential Venom albums you want to listen to when you want to start black metal. But if you had to choose one, I'm gonna have to go with Black Metal, because Black Metal was the album that sort of got me more into Venom, even though Welcome to Hell was the album that started me into sort of getting into Venom. But it's a great album, Black Metal, great songs all around. Next up, we have the Battle of the Morbid Angel albums. Ultras of Madness versus Covenant. It's gotta be Ultras of Madness. Again, how many bands do you know that their debut album is the best album in their entire discography? And don't get me wrong, Covenant, amazing album. If there was like Covenant versus Blessed or the Sick, Covenant probably would have won. But again, Ultras of Madness takes the cake. Next up, the Battle of the Type O Negative albums. Bloody Kisses versus October Rust. Two albums that I listen to a lot during the Halloween time, or whenever it's like gloomy around the days. But between the two, I'm gonna have to go with Bloody Kisses. Bloody Kisses has greater songs. Of course, the title track, Christian Woman. And don't get me wrong, October Rust has Be My Druness, I Love You to Death. Amazing albums, amazing songs. But Bloody Kisses to me is the more essential Type O Negative album that always is my go-to Type O Negative album, if I have to say so myself. Now we have another Battle of the Metallica albums. This time, Load versus Reload. Easily choice Reload, because I think Reload has better song quality. The Unforgiven, The Memory Remains. Unlike Low, it still has great songs, but I feel like Reload's more memorable because again, some of those songs have gone into WWE. I mean, of course, WrestleMania 28, that alone. But yeah, Reload all the way. Now we have two albums that I've listened to religiously during middle school or my emo phase. We have My Chemical Romance's The Black Parade versus Green Day's American Idiot. Two albums that were a constant on the radio in 2004, 5, 6, around there. But I'm gonna have to go with the Black Parade again. I have a more connection to the Black Parade than I do with American Idiot, even though I own both albums. They're both amazing albums. I get American Idiot is my favorite Green Day album, and the Black Parade is my favorite My Chemical Romance album. But the Black Parade, Welcome to the Black Parade, I Don't Love You, Famous Last Words, songs that my generation, in a way, kind of grew up listening to, and I went to emo night a couple of months ago. Those songs were there, and the whole crowd went nuts. Now we have another battle of the Bathory albums, Under the Sign of the Black Mark versus Blood, Fire, Death. Again, I have to go with Under the Sign of the Black Mark. It's my favorite Bathory album. But Blood, Fire, Death is the album that kind of unites the hardcore fans to the black metal stuff from Bathory and the Viking stuff from Hammerheart onward. Black, Fire, Death is the album that kind of unites both of those camps. But Under the Sign and Black Mark is Under the Sign of the Black Mark, my favorite Bathory album of all time. Next up, Rainbow Rising versus Dios Holy Diver. Oh man, that's kind of a bit of a tough, but I have to go with Rainbow Rising. Stargazer. Stargazer. What more can I say? Move along. Now we have the Battle of the Trivium album, Shogun versus the Sin of Sentence. Now, I haven't listened to that much Trivium in a long time, but from both these albums, I have to go with Shogun. I think Shogun has more better songs quality than the Sin of Sentence. Even though Sin of Sentence still has amazing songs, Shogun is my album of choice. You have to listen to between both the albums. Next up, Slayer's Show No Mercy versus Megadeth, Killing Is My Business. Easy. I'm gonna have to go with Show No Mercy. I think Show No Mercy has grown on me. Even though it's kind of weird listening to a young Slayer when they were more influenced in Wabom. From that transition into the Haunted the Chapel EP to Hellowitz, it's like night and day. And Megadeth still has that same sound to it, but Show No Mercy, The Antichrist, Black Magic. What more can I say? Next up, we have the Battle of the Death albums, Symbolic versus Individual Thought Patterns. I'll say it once, I'll say it again. Death has no bad albums. But between these two, it's kind of tough. I'm going to go with probably Symbolic. Even though Individual Thought Patterns is the most angriest album Chuck wrote, Symbolic is the transition that I believe if Chuck would have still been alive from the Sound of Perseverance onward, we would have had that kind of sound, that kind of prog death sound more developed and would have been a phenomenal thing. But Symbolic, it's fucking Symbolic. And for the longest time, it was my favorite death album, so that shows. Next up, another battle of the Black Sabbath albums, Master Reality versus Volume 4. Pretty much weed versus coke, if I had to say so myself. But it has to be Master Reality. I mean, Master Reality is Master Reality. What more can I say? Now we have the Battle of the Dark Throne albums, Blazing in the Northern Sky versus Under a Funeral Moon. Easily Blazing in the Northern Sky to me, since it was the first Dark Throne album I listened to. And Under Funeral Room kind of gets forgotten because it's sandwiched in the middle between, Under Blazing Northern Sky and Transylvanian Hunger. But Under Funeral Moon is still a phenomenal album. But again, Blazing Northern Sky takes the win for me. Next up, we have the Battle of the Opeth albums, Blackwater Park versus Ghost Reveries. If my buddy Levi was here having this choice, I know what his choice would have been, which is probably my choice I'm going to say right now, which is Blackwater Park. Blackwater Park is one of the best Opeth albums next to maybe My Arms Your Horrors or, another great album. There's just so many great Opeth albums that you can't choose, but Blackwater Park takes the win. Next up, Another battle of Metallica albums, this time the two most modern albums, Hardwired to Self-Destruct versus 72 Seasons. This is kind of a weird one. I have to go with Hardwired to Self-Destruct because I believe 72 Seasons, even though it's a phenomenon, it was a great album. Um, I think Hardwire has better song quality, has more thrashiness, has more of a oomph to it. I mean, you have songs like Spit Out the Bone, the title track, songs that I still listen to this day. While 72 Seasons, it still has great songs, but I believe give it a couple of years, it might, you know, begin to have a bit of a more appreciation for that album. And I do believe this. I do believe that this is the final Metallica album, which I hope are wrong. Hopefully, they release another album that chooses better. But let's see what happens. And the last one, this choice for the final choice of the entire video, we have Nightwish's Dark Passion Play versus Imaginarium. Now, if this was the early Nightwish albums, I would have gone easily with those. But being these are two of the most modern albums, I need to listen to more of these two. But if I have to choose between the two, I'm gonna have to go with probably Imaginarium as a simple guess, because even though I've listened to some singles of both the albums, I think Imaginarium is a bit better in my personal opinion. Just saying. So that pretty much is gonna wrap this video, and thank you guys for everyone who sent us suggestions. This was a really fun video, and pretty hard to be honest. If you guys want to see a second part, let me know down in the comments and leave your suggestions. Like I said, if I get a lot more suggestions, more album versus album, this could be another part 2 I could eventually do in the future. But again, leave it down in the comments if you guys want to see another video like this. If so, I'm gonna have to go into my Instagram and both Instagrams and pull up more album versus album, so you guys can drop them off. Let me down. Put some album versus albums in the comments. So if you guys want to see a part 2, I'll be ready to get them as quickly as I can. But thank you to everyone who sent all suggestions, and hopefully this is another type of thing that's gonna be you guys more often, and hopefully get the channel growing. But thank you guys so much for watching. Stay safe, everyone, and until next time, stay metal.